afternoon, and thank you for being here. And let me lay a little bit of background, and then we will hear from one of our attorneys. We'll also hear from plaintiffs that are assembled here. And in addition, we'll hear from some remarks from some of our affiliated organizations. So just to set the table and lay out some background, on September 15th, Governor Lee sat in the Oval Office with President Trump and other assembled federal officials. And what we saw was dumbfounding and disappointing. Our hope during that Oval Office meeting was that Governor Lee would have said to those assembled, "Mr. President, Tennessee is a free state, and we have no authority to use the military against Tennesseans." Unfortunately, that did not happen during the September 15th Oval Office visit. Instead, Governor Lee agreed to send troops to West Tennessee, even though he knew or should have known that that was patently illegal. For one thing, in Tennessee for over 150 years, the Constitution has provided that the militia shall not be called into service except in case of rebellion or invasion, and then only when the General Assembly shall declare by law that the public safety requires it. That is applied to every Tennessee governor for the last century and a half and applies to this governor as well. Yet on October the 10th, the National Guard was sent to town, joining dozens of partner agencies that were doing the work. There's no clear reason why the National Guard was sent to town. As I said, there were other agencies already working here, and many of them were trained for domestic civilian law enforcement activities. Well, no clear reason for sending the National Guard to Tennessee except to comply with the orders of Donald Trump. The effect of this wrong-headed and illegal decision has been catastrophic to some of the most important laws and norms of our country. But we are pushing back. We've seen successes in the last several days in Oregon and Illinois, and previously in California, and now in Tennessee. The military should not be used against Tennesseans. As the court says in their opinion, on page 11 in my version, there is no rebellion or invasion currently taking place in Memphis or Shelby County, Tennessee. Neither Shelby County nor the city of Memphis has declared a breakdown of law and order or other existing condition in Memphis or adopted any resolution requesting the governor to order members of the National Guard to active state duty in Memphis or Shelby County. The General Assembly has not declared that public safety requires or that other conditions exist that would warrant a military deployment to Memphis or enacted any law requesting deployment of Tennessee National Guard personnel to Memphis. This is, we believe, the first state action against the unlawful deployment of the military against Americans. Now, we realize we have a very long way to go, and we're up against the mightiest of adversaries, the White House and Donald Trump, Governor Lee, and federal officials, some of whom are willing to do whatever it takes to satisfy their whimsy of the day. But this is still an important first step and a testament to our commitment to preserve the principles that make this the greatest country on earth. All right, at this time, I'd like to give an opportunity to make some preliminary brief remarks to one of the lawyers in this action on behalf of the plaintiffs, Joshua Salzman. And I think he's piping in on Zoom, so we'll defer to Joshua, and then we'll go to plaintiffs for some opening remarks. Joshua.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. Joshua Salzman from the Democracy Forward Foundation. I don't have much to add to everything that Mayor Harris already said. I just want to emphasize a couple of points about what this ruling establishes. First, what we have is a court finding that there's a likelihood that the governor acted without lawful authority and without statutory authority in making this deployment to Memphis, which is a strong affirmation of the principle that no executive, be it a president or a governor, is above the law or has unfettered discretion to send troops in for purposes like civilian law enforcement. The second thing that this opinion does that I think is worth highlighting is on page 34 of the opinion. It recognizes that the residents of Memphis have a strong public interest in not being subjected to domestic military occupation for law enforcement purposes under circumstances where it's not statutorily authorized. And we're incredibly gratified that Judge Moskal recognized and affirmed that principle. Now, in terms of where things go from here, Judge Moskal is giving the state a window in which to seek permission to pursue an interlocutory appeal. That's something they can ask for permission to do, and we'll continue to litigate from there. But whether we continue to litigate before Judge Moskal in the Chancery Court or on appeal, we are looking forward to continuing to defend the rights of the people of Memphis to be free from unauthorized military occupation.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Josh. And Josh will stick around in case there are questions. At this time, we'd like to turn our attention to the plaintiffs. First up is Councilman J.B. Smiley.
2017, I was sworn in to practice law in this state, and I took oath. 2020, I was sworn in as a member of the Memphis City Council, and I took an oath. Both of those oaths require me to uphold the laws of this state. Every elected official, every practicing attorney takes that same oath. That oath also applies to the duly elected governor of this state. I've been very clear. On a plain reading of the statute, Section 58-1-106 prevents the unilateral action by the governor to send military into our communities. One of the things that the chancellor noted in her order particularly was the very de minimis impact that the National Guard has on the Memphis Safe Task Force. To put it in terms that I would say, they're not doing anything. We're spending millions of dollars for the National Guard to simply walk our streets, laugh and play when we have some very pressing issues in this community. Instead of wasting dollars on people who don't want to be here, who are not impacting our issues in our community, there are some places those dollars can go. They can go to the infrastructure projects we have in this community. As a matter of fact, there's a very talked about one on Elvis Presley. We heard today in the city council meeting that their project may not be finished until 2030. Invest millions of dollars on Elvis Presley. We all know that there's billions of dollars in deferred maintenance in our schools. Invest those millions of dollars into schools. We know that crime was already trending down in September prior to the arrival of the National Guard. How about investing dollars into places that matter to people? We're wasting time, we're wasting resources for a political show. And if I might add, this is deeply troubling. Not just for those who take oaths to uphold the laws of this state. It's deeply troubling for everyone who calls this community home. Because we allow the government to continue to abridge our rights. The question you should be asking yourself is, when are they coming for me? We have to stand up, we have to push back, and we shall not, and we will not be bowing down. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd welcome some brief remarks from the state senator from the Davidson County, Nashville area, Jeff Yarborough. Jeff Yarborough.
Thank you, Mayor Harris, and thanks to everyone there. Yesterday's ruling was a big affirmation for the rule of law in the state of Tennessee. For over 150 years, our state constitution has been crystal clear that there are significant limits on the governor calling out the National Guard. And here, you don't have to be a deep legal expert. You just have to read the Constitution and the statutes, and it's clear that what the governor's doing here doesn't comply with the law. And so there have been some responses today sort of about the effects on public safety, but we should be very suspicious we should be highly skeptical of any operation that's supposedly about law and order that depends upon breaking the law.
Yeah.
And so we know, as the councilman just referenced and as the reporting has shown, that the other forces that are operating in this operation can do this work without the National Guard. There's no need for the militarization of law enforcement in Tennessee. And the court today just did restore the basic principle that it's governed in the state of Tennessee for over 150 years, that we do not use the military to engage in basic law enforcement. I think that's great news for the state of Tennessee. It took, while it's just the basic reading of the statutes and laws, I still think we should applaud the court for having the courage to do her job in this instance, because we do know that there's been a lot of pressure, there will continue to be a lot of pressure on the judiciary to look the other way on what is an obvious and clear violation of state law. But I'm glad to see that this step was taken by the court and that we're starting to see some relief.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Senator Yarborough. At this time, we'll hear some remarks from Keith Caldwell, who is the president of MICA, the largest interfaith coalition in Memphis.
Thank you, Mayor. Greetings. As the mayor said, my name is Keith Caldwell. I also pastor the historic Centenary United Methodist Church here in South Memphis. We are excited about the ruling because Governor Lee has overstepped his boundaries. This overreach from the president and the governor by sending in National Guard to occupy a majority black city is very paternalistic, and it's just a shame that we had to come to do this. If it was about public safety, then we would have passed the permitless carry. We wouldn't have the state overturn that. So we know there's a direct correlation with crime and poverty. So this money could be directed to poverty. We need quality transportation for people who get to work and to school through reliable transportation. We need affordable housing. We need this $1 million a day, $100 million could be better spent around infrastructure and about rebuilding our city. So as a member of faith community, I want to encourage all people of faith to step up, to get off your couches, to come and join us as we uphold democracy by not allowing the Constitution to be shredded in our very presence. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Are there others that want to make comments? Mr. Foster? Cardell? Okay, very good. Do you want to take questions now, or do you want to wait till after the next part? Okay, so we're going to turn our attention to one more speaker, and then we'll open it up for questions. We know that lots of our communities, particularly communities of color, have been impacted during the course of the federal occupation. And so we want to make sure, particularly right now in this time of need, that we put out as much information as possible about where people can find resources. Every week we've heard voices speaking about troubling accounts of racial profiling, and those anecdotal accounts have not been sufficiently responded to. And this has impacted the ability of folks to access vital services. And so with the holidays coming up, families have been even more vulnerable with respect to their need for food. And we know that that this is also a time when there's a high incidence of domestic violence reports usually. However, right now, there are families that we've heard that are afraid to make those reports given some of the stress on their environment with the occupation. So we've invited spokespeople from two local organizations that are making accommodations to continue to supply communities of color, even those that can't necessarily leave their home right now, to make some comments. And so the first spokesperson is Jessica Miller. So Jessica, let's get Jessica up here to make some remarks. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Jessica Miller, and I'm one of the organizers with the Immigrant Pantry, a volunteer-run mutual aid network delivering food and essential support to immigrant families across Memphis. Thank you, Mayor Harris, for giving us space today to lift up the truth of what our immigrant neighbors are living through and the work our community is doing to keep families safe and fed. The Immigrant Pantry didn't start as a program. It started with fear and with heartbreak. When the Memphis Safe Task Force began operations, families in our city suddenly found themselves living in a completely different reality. Traffic stops turned into detentions, workplaces became traps, and homes were left with missing a parent, a provider, or a loved one. People were taken without warning, without explanation, without time to even say goodbye. We started with 8 deliveries a week. Most recently, we completed 180 deliveries in 1 week. Not because hunger suddenly appeared, but because fear exploded. The crisis didn't end yesterday, and it didn't begin with the National Guard. The threat families face remains very present, and when people ask, "Who are you serving?" I want the answer to be with the truth. We are serving the young mother who was pulled over on the way to her newborn daughter's first doctor's appointment, whose husband, that baby's father, was taken on the side of the road, and she was left all alone holding her 1-week-old child and no way to get home. We are serving the grandmother who is now caring for 4 children after her son was sent back to a country he hasn't seen since he was their age. We are serving the mother who fed her infant sugar water for 2 days because she couldn't afford formula, and she was terrified that if she left for work, she may never come home to those children. This is who we serve: families, children, human beings who deserve safety, dignity, and peace, not terror. And to anyone watching who has been targeted or left living in uncertainty, I want to say this from my heart: Eres importante, eres amado, no estás solo. Last night's ruling matters. It affirmed what many already knew, but removing the National Guard does not remove the fear. It does not unbreak the families, it does not undo the trauma, and it does not stop the ongoing actions of the task force that created the crisis we're in the first place. That is why our work continues, because the harm continues, and because families cannot wait for systems to catch up to their suffering. Every week, volunteers across Memphis fill cars with groceries, diapers, formula, and 60-pound boxes of food. We show up quietly, safely, and respectfully with no questions about status, no paperwork, no judgment, and no conditions. This is not charity. This is solidarity. It is community defense. It is Memphis taking care of Memphis when our most vulnerable neighbors are being failed by the systems meant to protect them. We have no grants, no institutions behind us. We're just regular, everyday people showing up because we refuse to abandon our neighbors in their darkest moments. To immigrant families in our city, we see you, we will keep coming. You do not have to choose between safety and feeding your children. And to anyone in Memphis who wants to help, your donations, your groceries, your volunteer hours become hope. They become stability. They become food on the table for families who have been traumatized, targeted, and too often forgotten. The Immigrant Pantry exists because this community chose compassion over cruelty, courage over silence, and solidarity over indifference. We will keep showing up for as long as families need us, and we are deeply grateful to everyone who stands with us. You can find out more about our initiative at www.indivisiblememphis.org. Thank you.
And for our last speaker, we have Inez Negrete. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly, Ms. Inez.
I think you are trying, Mayor.
Okay.
Negative.
Negrete. Okay. After you, Inez.
Hola, everybody. My name is Inez Negrete. I'm the founder and executive director of Casaluz. Casaluz is the only non-profit organization in the Memphis, Shelby County area that corporally and exclusively serves Hispanic victims of domestic violence, sexual assault, and other violent crimes. For many years, Hispanic community members have been disproportionately targeted by violent crimes. Offenders often exploit the barriers and challenges Hispanics face, such as language barriers, discrimination, and bias from institutions meant to assist them, lack of trust in law enforcement and the judicial system, and fear of deportation, among others. These factors have long contributed to a significant gap of mistrust between local police department and the Hispanic community. For the past 10 years, Casaluz has collaborated with local law enforcement agencies to help bridge this gap. As part of our institutional advocacy efforts, we have provided specialized intensified with the presence of the Memphis Safe Task Force and the racial profiling experiences many community members have reported. The here policy changes have resulted in reduced funding for Casaus, forcing us to downsize our staff, despite the continued and growing need for our services. Every day, new clients walk through our doors, most of them hesitant to report crime or engage with the judicial system. Casaluz provides free, confidential, and corporate responsive services, including legal advocacy, accompaniment to court hearing, assistance with filing police report and order of protection in our own office, individual counseling, support groups, guest speaker sessions, community education, and emergency assistance, such as temporary housing, transportation, culturally appropriate food, rental, and utility assistance. If you know anybody that is a Hispanic victim of the violent crime, please just tell them, don't be afraid, you are not alone. You can reach out to Casaluz at 901-500-8214, send a voicemail, a text, or you can send a private message to Facebook or Instagram at Casaluz Memphis. We also are just a regular office Monday through Friday from 8 to 4. We are not an emergency center. Thank you so much, Mayor, for this opportunity.
Okay, very good, thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll open it up for some questions. Yes, sir.
Mine isn't a question, mine is more a statement of support. Number one, the nation is watching Memphis and what happened in Memphis and Shelby County. So it's like a blueprint for other areas that might be impacted. I work and live downtown, so I'm down here 24 hours a day. The National Guard primarily patrols up and down Field Street, doing absolutely nothing but running resources that could be used in protecting the citizens of Memphis by adding police officers, staffing the jails, and all those other things that need to happen. We have immigrants that are afraid to come to work, afraid to go to church, afraid to come out. But moreover, it's hurting tourism for the city of Memphis because people don't know what that means, how it translates if they come to the city of Memphis. So we really need to make sure that the National Guard is removed from the city of Memphis.
Thank you for that comment. Other questions? Yes.
Yeah, Mayor Harris, you mentioned it, and Mr. Saltzman might be able to also chime in here, but this is just the first decision of a long road of decisions. Of course, the state has a few more days to try and appeal. We might get one as soon as today. If so, this could take months before everything plays out. Mr. Saltzman, I don't know if you can explain a little more about what the process could look like, and also if we could expect to see any loopholes or anything else from the state.
Go ahead, Josh.
Sure. So unfortunately, there is a little bit of uncertainty right now, and I'm not in the business of making predictions about how either the state is going to proceed or the courts are going to rule. We are at a point now where the state has been given, 5 business days to initiate the first step towards an appeal process before the temporary injunction takes effect. If and when they make that filing, we'll respond from there and do everything we can to try to get this resolved as quickly as possible and to get the military off of Memphis streets. But beyond that, I'm afraid I can't offer any specifics on the timetable.
Okay, very good. Other questions? Yes.
Yeah, Mary, at the end of last week, we saw that the number of troops in Memphis was set to increase to about 130 last weekend, I believe. It's basically doubling. Do we expect that increase to still happen while the injunction is pending, but is that going to stall out?
Well, that may be also a technical question, but I certainly hope that we've seen the end of increases given what the court has ruled. But Josh or others, anybody want to comment on that? And let me repeat it just in case Josh didn't hear. Will the number of troops increase given the court order? Go ahead, Councilman Smiley.
Okay, so my position as it relates to that, and what we've seen with this administration is a total disregard for the law. We see it with this current governor's administration. We see it with the gentleman who occupies the White House. They do not care what's written in our statutes or our Constitution. And because of that, we need good people to consistently say, hey, this is wrong, and we must meet that complete disregard for laws that are in place with the appropriate amount of litigation. And that's what you see here. And if they don't leave, when they're instructed by the court to leave, we have to continue doing what we're doing now, which is being vocal, visible, and continue to push back against this complete chaos.
Okay, other comments, Josh? Any other comments on that?
No, I don't think I have anything to add to that. I think what the opinion from Judge Moskal correctly recognizes is that the deployment of even one National Guard member to the streets of Memphis under current conditions is unlawful. It obviously is unsettling and disturbing that the state would be going the other direction and increasing the deployment. But from a legal merits perspective, even one National Guard member is too many, and it's our position not allowed either under the statutes of the Constitution.
And I should say, if you look at the filings in totality, as there was increases in the number of National Guards, we made additional filings to bring notice of that change to the court's attention.
Shelby, obviously this is a long-standing situation, but what kind of message would you give to Memphians right now? Because a lot of us know living right now. What's your message as far as this injunction and I guess what's next for the benefits of this scenario?
Well,
All right, you have been listening in on this press conference, Mayor Lee Harris, J.B. Smiley, and other leaders discussing the judge's ruling that deemed the deployment of the National Guard that it was against the state constitution and therefore unlawful by Governor Bill Lee. I'll take you through a couple of the quick questions and answers that we heard. One of the questions was somebody asked what the timetable might be for the National Guard to get removed. The response was from the attorney that there was no actual timetable. It'd be really hard to speculate, but as of right now, they could not tell you when that might happen. You also heard Mayor Lee Harris mention that they continued to increase the filings as the National Guard troops increased in the city, basically saying that as more troops were deployed, they would adjust their filing so that the court would know how many troops had been deployed so they'd have an accurate number as they went forward. Again, there's 5 business days for the state to respond and to decide whether or not they want to challenge that. After those 5 business days, we'll have a better idea of what's going to be happening moving forward. I don't know if we'll be able to take our reporter, Desmond Nugent, who's been live there watching it, but we will have a full coverage of this coming up for you later at 5 and 6 o'clock as we continue to break down exactly what this means for the people of Memphis. But for now, that's going to do it for our coverage, our live coverage right now of this latest press conference and this latest ruling from the judge. Again, we'll have much more coming up for you later on at 5 and 6.
Continue with us and watch free now on the 24 Plus app everywhere you stream.